My brother-in-law lives on disability. His student visa wife wants 2 kids. My in-laws bankroll it all, and I'm the villain for saying no. Brother-in-law is 35 and his wife is 39. My brother-in-law has been living off of disability for the past 5 years due to numerous complicated medical stuff, the details of which I am unaware of. He also receives significant financial support from my mother and father-in-law, again the extent of which is unknown, but it's been hinted to us from them directly that it's a lot. That's the outside of the situation, the polite version you say when you don't want the room to go quiet. The inside is messy, eh? The inside is me at our kitchen table, holding my breath, hearing him say we're trying for 2, while I am very casually pressing my fingernail into the wood so I don't blurt something reckless. He met his now wife 2 years ago. She's on a student visa, studying film at the community college that rebrands itself every semester. She works part-time at a coffee place that makes every drink in a beaker like it's a chemistry set. She is funny when she wants to be and prickly when she doesn't. She can make a perfect matcha and also a fight out of thin air. They live together with roommates, 3 streams of income, disability, parental bailout, and her minimum wage shifts, braided into this fragile rope, they keep swinging across chasms. Some days they clear it. Other days they dangle. A few times they fell, and we hauled them up. They lived in our spare room for 2 months when their landlord accidentally rented their room to another couple with a better credit score. A year ago, they decided to get married. If we get married, it moves the citizenship thing along, he said like he had just discovered cheat code. He was smiling at the phone. The front camera showed me sitting next to my husband, who was blinking slowly like a cat about to knock a glass over. It doesn't, I said. It absolutely doesn't, my husband echoed. And we both sounded like we were reading from an article we didn't want to have to read again. We told him a dozen times. Marriage is not a magic stamp. Sponsorship is a leash you tie around your own ankle for 3 years. He heard love wins. She heard paperwork. Neither of them heard the part where the sponsor is on the hook financially if the sponsored spouse can't work. But I get it, sort of. He was happy, which felt like watching a cracked glass hold water for once. He'd been sick and broke and lonely for years, and suddenly he had someone who touched his shoulder like he wasn't a problem to be solved. People say they can tell when someone meets their person. I could tell he met someone who made him feel chosen. That's not the same thing, but try explaining that to a man who thinks he's finally not a disappointment. We try to be decent about it. We made a playlist and a cupcake tower for their backyard wedding because the budget didn't extend to a DJ or a cake. Her side of the aisle was 2 classmates with dramatic eyeliner. His side was our family and the roommates. During vows, she called him my anchor, and I flinched because anchors hold you in place, sure, but they also drag. He cried. She laughed. I refilled the cooler with LaCroix and pretended that meant I had done my part. The next day, they went back to their apartment with the slanted floors and started talking about kids. I didn't hear the kid talk right away. It leaked out over time in stray comments. When we have 2, from him while he watched our dog chase a fly. I don't want to be an older mom, from her, quiet and brittle in the car. I shut my mouth each time and swallowed a rock. Here's the kind of math I do now, which I didn't do before they got married. Rent plus utilities plus insurance plus groceries minus 2 people's uneven health and immigration paperwork equals phone calls to my in-laws at midnight asking if they can front certain bills until next month when the hours pick up. The numbers never pick up. The numbers are a sick joke. Once, a landlord wrote them up for late rent and tried to slap them with a fee that wasn't in the lease. She responded with a 4-paragraph email citing local tenants' rights law, like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. It was impressive, in the way a tornado is impressive. They won that one and lost the next, got evicted on a technicality about the leaseholder moving out, which is how they ended up with their blankets on our couch. She said, "This city hates poor people." My husband said, gentle, "The city hates everyone in a different way." I said nothing, just counted our plates and wondered how much an extra person can eat on 1 meal a day. They say they eat once a day. He says it like it's a personality. We're intermittent fasting and not by choice. He laughs. She doesn't. They are barely making it even with money from his parents, who are not rich, but are old-school generous in ways that make my stomach knot. My mother-in-law will empty her wallet for a kid who takes a call, and he always takes her call. She has a voice like forgiveness. My father-in-law has a voice like a warning light. He'll grumble about not subsidizing bad decisions, then Venmo them rent and buy him a box of protein bars because at least this is food. I don't know all the details of his health stuff. It's numerous complicated medical stuff, which is the family's formal diagnosis for anything you don't feel like getting into. There are good days when he does kitchen dances with her while a pot of rice boils. There are bad days where he texts Flair, no punctuation, and disappears in a bed for 3 days. I used to ask more questions, now I don't. It stops being curiosity and starts being cruelty at some point, like, are you sure you're sick enough to deserve help? I'm not doing that. He says he can't work. I'm not his doctor. I do see him, though. I see the way he gets bored and buys things he shouldn't just to feel alive for 10 minutes. Like the 3D printer. That one almost broke me. Money from his parents was supposed to cover groceries and a deposit on a cheaper place. Instead, he sent me a video. Layer by layer, a little plastic soldier was blooming out a square of blue tape. Isn't this sick? He said. We can print anything. He sounded 17. I wanted to take the printer and drop-kick it off the porch. Food. I typed and erased. I'm happy for you. I typed and erased. Finally, I sent a thumbs-up emoji and felt like a coward. A week later, the roommates complained the printer made the smoke detectors beep because of the filament smell. He argued about ventilation for an hour and then admitted maybe they should just print when the house is chill. He said house like it was a home. It's not. It's 6 people and 1 bathroom and a hole in the pantry covered by a poster for a short film. That short film. I went to the screening. It was in a classroom with the chairs pushed back and a projector showing a girl wandering around an empty parking garage. 12 minutes long, and the credits took 2 of them. She dedicated it to those of us who are invisible. Everyone clapped. She cried a little. He hugged her and whispered, "You're going to be huge." I wanted to believe him for her. I wanted my life to be the montage where we lean into the struggle and then success shows up like a parade float. But the truth is, the montage is most of it. The montage is rent and forms and emails and secondhand microwaves. We try to talk about the immigration piece. My husband is the calm one. I'm the one who listens fast and interrupts faster. He sat them down before the wedding with a printed checklist. Sponsorship basics, timelines, fees. It's not that you can't do it, he said. It's that marriage doesn't automatically beam you into citizenship. You have to apply, and once you apply, there's a period where you might not be able to work depending on your status and your paperwork. There will be moments where you legally can't earn. You need a plan. Sponsors commit to supporting the spouse for 3 years so they don't fall on public assistance. He said like a PSA. She said, "I am not a charity case." He said, "I didn't say that." She said, "It's how you said it." He apologized for his tone instead of the facts because the facts aren't negotiable. He printed another copy of the checklist after they left and folded it in half and put it in a drawer like that would fix anything. They got married anyway. It was their choice. It's still their choice. I remind myself of this when I start drafting rescue plans in my head at 3 a.m. The rescue plans look like Excel sheets and faked emergency funds and a staged intervention where everyone cries and promises to do better. The real plan is they text when they're desperate, we triage, and my in-laws write a check. Meanwhile, we go home and fight into pillows so the dog doesn't get anxious. The first big fight about the kid thing happened over tacos on our patio. He said casually, "We're not getting any younger," and she said, "I want a girl and a boy in that order," and my husband and I both inhaled like we'd been dumped. "Are you serious? I asked, because joking serious would still be a problem, but at least there'd be room to pivot. She said yes. She looked at me like I'd asked if grass is real. "It's weird that you're asking," she added like I was intruding. "It's weird that you're telling us like it's a plan we're all part of," I said back before I could stop myself. He tried to smooth it. "We know it's going to be hard," he said, "but everyone figures it out." People have kids all the time with less. That last word hung there like a dare. Less what? Less money, less support, less health, less paperwork, less, I don't know, less me in their business. And we really want two, he said. Two makes a family feel real. He said real, and I thought of the 3D printer again. How he likes to hit print and watch a thing appear, because making something from nothing is intoxicating when the rest of your life is just trying not to lose the nothing you have. I said, carefully, it sounds like you're still working through the immigration application. She cut in. We're taking a pause. A pause. I repeated, we're going to do the marriage certificate first, she said. We did the marriage certificate. My husband said gently, oh, sorry. I mean, we're going to take a breather before the next step because the fees are ridiculous and we need to save, and also my hours might get cut if they switch me to mornings, and I can't do mornings because I have class. I looked at her and wondered if anyone had explained to her in a way she would accept that the pause is not a hole where time stops. It's just a gap where things get more complicated. If you apply, my husband said, there's a chance you have a period where you're not allowed to work, or it's a gray area and your employer won't risk it. That's a smaller income stream than the already small one. We know, she said. He nodded. If you have a baby in that pause, he started. We're not idiots, she snapped. No one said you were, I said, and my voice came out sharp. We're just saying the logistics. People have babies in worse situations, she said. People also drown in puddles, I said. It doesn't mean we should encourage them to walk into puddles with weights on. My husband kicked my ankle under the table. She stood up. He stood up. The tacos went cold while we did the conversation about the conversation. How tone matters. How it's hard to hear concerns as love when they sound like criticism. How I should pick words that aren't knives if I want to stay invited. I apologized because I meant the love part, even if it came out like a spreadsheet slapped you. After they left, my husband said, "You're not wrong." Then he wrapped his arms around me like he was bracing a table with a wobbly leg. It's not about being right. Being right in a disaster is like being the tallest person on a sinking ship. I think about the kid they want. Two specifically. He says two like it's a medicine dosage. He says two like he's taking back something the world stole from him. I get that impulse. I grew up watching my parents juggle 3 jobs between them. They had us too young, and anyway, it was the 90s, and everyone thought you could bootstrap your way into a house by just working hard. Sometimes life is a chain you pull yourself up by. Sometimes it's a chain that keeps you in place. I look at him and my in-laws and the way money moves in circles, and I wonder which this is. My in-laws know about the kid plans. My mother-in-law lit up when she heard it. A baby, she squealed like she had it in her arms already. She knit a miniature hat the next week, blue and gray stripes. She tucked it in a drawer and called it manifesting. My father-in-law did math out loud like he was counting heartbeats. Daycare is, he didn't finish. They don't say no to their son. They don't say no to her either, because if they say no to her, they're not just denying a grandchild. They're the white-haired gatekeepers telling the immigrant artist she doesn't get to have a normal life like everyone else. I can feel my mother-in-law hesitate at that edge. She hates feeling like the bad cop. She'll sign anything if it means she gets to stay the good one. There was a night last winter where all of this sharpened. They called us at 11 because their heat went out and their landlord couldn't get there until morning. It was 27 degrees and their windows rattle when trucks pass by. "Come here," I said before I could think. They showed up in parkas and slippers. She was shivering and angry, a furious popsicle. He cracked jokes, kept pointing at his breath in the air like a kid. I made tea. My husband unrolled the sofa bed, and my dog decided to act like a dumb hero and sleep at their feet. I lay awake listening to them whisper. She said, "I'm old." He said, "You're not old." She said, "My eggs are old." He said nothing to that, just grabbed her hand, I think. The next morning, I made pancakes, and they ate like people who hadn't had breakfast in a month. Watching them slice pancakes into equal pieces for each other ripped me open. They really love each other. That's the part that makes me shut up sometimes. They love each other like teenagers who decided the world is a misunderstanding they can correct by a sheer force of sincerity. That's intoxicating to watch. That's also how people end up where the scary statistics live. A week later, he texted, "We've been tracking my wife's cycle." An egg emoji, a winky face. My husband and I both stared at the phone like it was a bomb someone had wrapped in party paper. "That's exciting," my husband wrote, "because he is a better person than me." "We're here if you want to talk budgeting," he added. No response. Later that day, my mother-in-law sent a photo of a onesie with a pun about camera lenses. I turned my phone face down on my desk and stared at the keyboard until the letters blurred. I keep thinking if I find the perfect sentence, it will click something into place for them. That if I find a way to string together autonomy and stability and please for the love of God, wait, it'll translate. It never does. It always lands as judgment. And I do judge, if I'm honest, I do. I judge the way the 3D printer lives on their kitchen table like a roommate who doesn't pay rent. I judge that there are shelves of Warhammer figurines in the room they can't afford, plastic soldiers lined up like they're going to march across the balance sheet and save the day. I judge that the grocery money turns into little paint pots and hobby supplies that will get listed on Facebook Marketplace when things get dire and then taken down because no one appreciates the craftsmanship. We had them over again. "Why do we keep doing this to ourselves?" And I said, "Look, I'm happy you're happy." He smiled, wary. I took a breath. "I'm scared," I said, slower than I talk when I want to win. "I'm scared of what your life is like, and I am terrified of a baby inside that life." She looked at me like I had slapped her. "We love each other," she said, as if that was supposed to dissolve fear like pouring water on salt. "I know," I said. "We had lice when I was 8, and my mom shaved my head in the kitchen because we didn't have money for the fancy shampoo." I added, because sometimes the only way to translate is to throw a piece of yourself in the middle of the table. Love doesn't get rid of the ugly parts of poverty. It makes you better at suffering them. I don't want that for your kid. She went very still. He went red. "We're not poor," he said. "We're just temporarily under-resourced." It was so absurd I laughed, and then I wanted to cry because he believed it when he said it. He really did. He believes every downer in his life is a temporary weather event and not a climate. He believes rescue is a personality trait he can install if he tries hard enough. He is my husband's brother. He carries the same stubborn spine, but in him it bends under too many things. The next day, my father-in-law called me. He never calls me directly, which meant my mother-in-law had flagged him in. "We need to have a conversation," he said, formal. "About what?" I asked, though I knew. "About your concerns," he said, making the words so diplomatic it sounded like a foreign dish. "Okay," I said. "Here's my concern. You're paying for 2 people to exist, and they want to add a third while being legally prevented from one of the few incomes they currently have, and you're already stretched, and you're going to say yes because you can't say no to your son." He was quiet for a second. "We will manage," he said. "Ow," I said. He hesitated. "We always have." That made me angrier than it should. "You keep saying yes as if it's love," I said. "Sometimes love is no." He sighed and said I sounded like his own father, which I think was supposed to be a dig. Maybe it was. I apologized for my tone, but not my point. He said he had to go split firewood, a lie he tells when he wants to feel like a pioneer and not a guy Venmoing his kid rent while pretending the money has an origin story with muscles. I've painted myself here like I'm the only sane one. I know I'm not. I do unkind things. I rehearse speeches in the shower where I am devastatingly correct and also weirdly poetic. I scratch my husband with my words when I'm stressed and then cry because I hate that I am the person who scratches. I also buy stupid shit sometimes. I bought an $80 candle last month because it smelled like clean library, and I wanted to pretend I live in a version of myself who reads more essays and less internet fights. We are not saints. We are just on the safer side of a ledge and yelling at 2 people who insist the view is worth a drop. He texted again a few weeks later. "We're serious about trying," he wrote. 2. "Can we talk?" My husband wrote back. "We've talked," he said. "We just want a little joy." That one sank me. A little joy. As if babies are little joys instead of entire tectonic plates. As if a baby is a dessert you can order after the medical bills come. He's not stupid. He's just hungry for something big enough to reorder the world. I recognize that hunger. It's why people move across oceans and marry at community centers and buy machines that spit plastic warriors instead of cooking dinner. I call my therapist because, yes, I have one and I pay her, and that is a luxury I don't take for granted. I told her the whole situation. She said, "What are you trying to control that you can't?" I said, "The future of a baby who doesn't exist yet." She looked at me the way she looks at me when she wants me to hear myself. I said, "I can't stand by and do nothing." She said, "Doing something and controlling are not the same." She asked me what I can actually do. I said, "Save money for a situation I hate." She smiled in that therapist way that makes you feel seen and ridiculous at the same time. She said, "You can set a boundary." I hate boundaries. They always sound like you're reading laminated rules on a fridge. We tried a boundary. We told them we will not be the emergency fund for baby-related expenses. We said it with love, and then we sent in writing because conversations evaporate when the next disaster shows up. He called me an hour later, voice bright with falseness. "We're not asking you for anything," he said. "I know," I said, "and I'm telling you anyway, so it's clear." He said, quieter, "I thought you'd be excited." That's the thing. If I was a different person, if he was a different brother, if she was a different woman, if this was a different country, if, I could feel all of the alternate timelines where we were excited clattering like beads behind my eyes. "I'm not excited," I said. "I am scared." He hung up kindly. That's his move. If he can't win, he won't play. My mother-in-law found out about the boundary and called me with a voice like a church hymn, soft and disappointed. "You know, love isn't about keeping score," she said. I wanted to ask her how many zeros were on the scorecard this month, but I didn't. I told her I love her son and I love her, and I'm not going to become a resentful piggy bank. "We would never ask you," she said. "You don't have to," I said. "You ask him, and he asks me." She went quiet, and I knew I had snipped one of the little cords that tie us close. I will nod it later and then cut it again. That's family. They told us about the 1 meal a day thing during a roommate blow-up. The roommates were tired of covering the power bill because the 3D printer ran all night. He said they barely eat, and the roommates said they don't owe him sympathy in the form of electricity. She said, "What do you want me to do? Stop making art." I said, "Eat 2 meals." And she said, "We can't afford it." I opened my mouth and my husband squeezed my hand so hard my knuckles cracked. After they left, we made them a grocery order and sent it to their address. She texted "thank you" and a heart, and then a photo of their pantry with 9 cans of beans like a little army. It made me feel both better and worse, which is how charity always makes me feel. He texted, separately, "We're looking into WIC for when we're pregnant. You have to qualify, and also you have to be careful with public benefits when you're in immigration stuff," my husband wrote. She responded from his phone, "We know our rights." I wanted to say, "You know your dreams," but that's just me being venomous. I didn't send it. There was another incident with the landlord. Technically, the sublet they were on became invalid when the original leaseholder moved out again. Their new primary roommate was a guy who keeps plants like pets and hates conflict like it owes him money. The landlord tried to increase the rent by $400 for the same room due to market conditions. They argued that you can't change the rent mid-lease, and he countered that they were new tenants and therefore new lease terms apply. They sent me the email chain with all caps scattered like landmines. I wanted to tell them to leave. Where? Exactly. They ended up paying the extra because Plants Guy gave up. That same week, she bought a new pair of boots for winter that cost $100 and looked like something you'd wear to stomp out a riot. He bought a resin upgrade for the printer. I know because they posted it on Instagram. It would be funny if it weren't a life. The way they talk about 2 kids makes me want to reach for a whiteboard. You know, 2 means double diapers, double daycare, double the chance someone gets an ear infection on a day you don't have bus money, I want to say. But there's a trap there. Because if I say that, and they have 1 kid and it's hard, will I have been any different? If I say that, and they end up happy, will I be the cold which who couldn't see it? The truth is, I don't trust their odds. They live in a world where the margin for error is microscopic. Babies blow margins. That's what they do. They show up and stomp all over your margins with their little feet. I keep going back to this conversation we had in the grocery store parking lot. He was putting groceries in our trunk because he forgot his own reusable bags, and I offered ours like that fixes a system. He said, "You don't want us to have kids because you think we're fuck-ups." I said, "I don't want you to have kids because you are broke and because you are legally in limbo and because you already can't feed yourselves reliably." He said, "We fed ourselves last week." He meant the grocery order we sent. I said nothing. He slammed the trunk too hard and apologized to the car like it was a person. "I just want something good," he said. "I want something that isn't a diagnosis or a bill." I said, "I know," and meant it more than he will ever believe. The hardest part is that I actually like her. That complicates my tidy narratives where I make him the fool and her the manipulator. She's neither. She's a person who came here on a borrowed dream and found a man who treats her like she's already famous. She's sharp and stubborn and allergic to shame. She will not be the immigrant who bows her head and says thank you for crumbs. She wants a life, not a survival. I don't blame her for that. I blame a little, though, the way she treats a baby like a film project with a Kickstarter. If enough people believe in it and share the link, it'll happen. The world doesn't work like that. It's uglier and dumber. We had one last round of this at my in-laws' table. The house smells like cinnamon and laundry. My mother-in-law set out plates for everyone like she was feeding 7 ghosts. My father-in-law carved a roast that probably cost what they spend on groceries in a week, and the guilt of that did laps around the room while we pretended nothing was weird. Then she said, "Breezy, we're going to start trying." Like actively. She looked at me when she said it. He looked at his plate. My husband stared at his dad's hands, shaving meat into thin slices. My mother-in-law clapped involuntarily, like a seal. My father-in-law blinked. I said, "You know my stance." She said, "I do." I said, "And I know it's not my body." She said, "Correct." He looked up then, guilty for something that hadn't happened yet. My mother-in-law said, "A baby is a blessing," and my father-in-law said, "A baby is a budget," and then they both laughed to pretend they were on the same page. I said, "I can't stop you. I won't try." She said, "Thank you." I added, "And I won't co-sign this as a good idea." The silence that followed had weight. My husband put his hand on my knee under the table, not to stop me, but to tether me so I wouldn't float away afterward. She said, "Finally, we don't need your permission." I said, "I know." And that was it. No dramatic exit. Just mashed potatoes and relief and dread. After dinner, my father-in-law took me aside. He said, "You're right." I said, "I don't want to be right." He said, "Me neither." Then he said the thing I've been waiting to hear from anyone else but me. "We can say no." He looked surprised as he said it, like the sentence had grown in his mouth without telling him. "You can," I said. "You can say, if you have a baby, we can't keep doing this. You can say you can stay here for a week in an emergency, but that's it. You can say you need a plan that's not mom and dad will fix it." He nodded like the idea hurt, but felt good. He hasn't said it yet. I don't think he will. He's too tender where his sons are concerned. He would rather ruin his own retirement than watch his son be publicly broke. We all have our lines. I'm not asking for permission to feel the way I do. I know it makes me the asshole in some rooms. Everyone gets to decide when they're ready. People will say, "You don't know what will happen." Sure, maybe they'll have a kid and she'll land a union gig and he'll stabilize and my in-laws will dial back the money and we'll all laugh at how dramatic I was. Or maybe they'll have a kid and then another and the printer will keep humming through the night while the baby cries and my mother-in-law will come over to rock it while she does dishes and my father-in-law will take on a part-time job, a hardware store, to pay for formula, and I will buy diapers out of rage and love. Maybe both. Maybe neither. I can't know. I just know what I'm watching. 2 people who can barely float insisting they can swim across an ocean with a kid on their shoulders. I'm the asshole on the shore yelling, "Wait," because I can see the current. They're the assholes ignoring me because they can see the sunrise. Maybe everyone is an asshole here. Maybe that's the human condition. For the record, I'm not telling them they can't have kids. I am not standing in front of a clinic or a courthouse. I'm not calling immigration to report anyone. I'm not sabotaging their birth control the way some men do when they want a baby as a possession. I'm doing exactly nothing but saying my concern out loud and refusing to underwrite an experiment my gut says will end with a child I'll lie awake worrying about every night. If that makes me the asshole, fine. Put it on my headstone. Try to keep a baby from being born into a situation that already chews up two adults. The night after that family dinner, I woke up at 4 a.m., the hour where every worry puts on boots and marches around the bed. I went to the kitchen. The dog followed, hopeful for a snack. I opened the fridge and stared like the milk would have advice. The quiet was heavy, and then my phone buzzed. A text from him. "You up?" I said yes. He sent a photo. 2 little plastic figures on his palm, a knight and a wizard. "Printed for you," he wrote. "Thought you'd like the wizard." He looks pissed off. I stared at the photo for a long time. The wizard did look pissed, eyebrows carved into a permanent lecture. He had printed them with hollow centers to save on filament. They're lighter than they look. I typed "thanks," and then, because I am too soft to hold a grudge in the dead of night, "He's perfect. We'll figure out," he wrote. "We always do." I didn't answer. There's something mean about not answering, and also something honest. A week passed without drama, which in this family counts as a vacation. They posted to Instagram. A beach at sunset, feet in the frame, someone else's wine glass in the corner because you can't afford your own. The caption was a lyric about holding on. Then another post, a shot of a baby socket target. Someday, the caption said, "My mother-in-law commented 10 hearts." I hid the post from my feed and immediately felt guilty because God forbid I curate my own sanity. My husband saw me and put his hand on the back of my neck. He doesn't say it'll be okay because he's not an idiot. He says, "We'll handle what happens." Sometimes love is that boring and that brave. We had them over again because we're addicts. My husband made spaghetti. She ate 2 plates and said something like, I keep forgetting to eat." He laughed and said, "That's not how bodies work." And she smiled in a way that made it clear she knows and doesn't. He and I cleaned up. She and my husband sat at the table talking about a documentary she wants to shoot about invisible labor. I washed dishes while listening to the sentence, "invisible labor," bounce around and land on me. The labor of worrying. The labor of being the family bastard who says the unsayable. The labor of watching someone you love strap themselves to a rocket made of hope and duct tape. None of it gets you a grade or a paycheck or applause at a film screening. You get to be a villain on the internet if you write about it. You get to be the one who doesn't believe in people. Maybe that's fair. I don't believe in hope as a strategy. She went to the bathroom, and he sidled up next to me at the sink. "We're going to start the paperwork," he said in a whisper that felt like a confession. "Good," I said. He nodded. "But the timing might mean she can't work." "I know," I said. "We'll cover what we can," he said. "Who's we?" I asked, and he did that smug little smirk he has when he thinks he's the main character. "Us," he said. "Me and her." I wanted to hug him and shake him. "Both." "Okay," I said, because there are times you choose to be kind over being right. 2 days later, my mother-in-law called and said, in a rush, "Don't be mad, but we gave them money for the application fees." I said, "I'm not mad. That's the least stupid thing to give them money for." She laughed with relief. "You're so mean," she said affectionately, which is something only she gets to say. "They're serious," she added, "about all of it." I thank her for telling me. After we hung up, I sat in my car in the grocery store parking lot again and cried like someone had told me a secret I didn't want to know. My husband brought me tissues and I said, "I don't want to be this person." And he said, "Then don't be." I said, "I can't help it." And he said, "You can help the volume." That made me laugh. He is my favorite person in a world that makes it hard to have favorites. They came by to borrow a ladder because the smoke detector was beeping again and they couldn't reach it. He made a joke about metaphors in this house. I handed him the ladder and an extra pack of batteries like I was arming him for a very boring war. She hugged me unexpectedly, hard. "We're not idiots," she said in my shoulder. I said, "I didn't say you were." She pulled back and looked me dead in the face. "You think it," she said. I held her gaze. "Sometimes," I said, "honesty is a knife and a salve." She nodded like she appreciated the cut. "We're going to be okay," she said. And for the first time I realized she didn't mean financially. She meant together. She meant that if everything else falls apart, there will still be a we. That's not nothing. It's not diapers either. I don't have a resolution to offer. There isn't one yet. Maybe by the time this gets read, there will be a plus sign on a stick and my mother-in-law will be knitting in double time and my father-in-law will be looking at his spreadsheet like it bit him. Maybe nothing will happen for a long time and we'll cycle through the same fight every 3 months until I'm numb. Maybe they'll change their minds, not because of anything we said, but because life changed their minds for them. I hope, not for a baby or against one, but for a life where the math isn't so mean. Am I the asshole for looking at 2 people I love and wanting to throw my body between them and their dream? Am I the asshole for giving a shit about a hypothetical kid more than my reputation as the supportive sister-in-law? If it helps, know that I hate asking the question. I hate how it makes me sound. Rich sibling with a stick up her ass, policing the fertility of the broke ones. I hear it. I can't unhear it. I also can't unknow the nights they have slept in our house because the heat went out and the mornings they have eaten breakfast like we'd invented it for them, and the way his shoulders go up to his ears when money comes up and the way hers go back when she decides she will not be shamed. I can't unknow the number of times my in-laws have loaned them money they will never see again and called it generosity because gift sounds too much like admitting this is the setup now. People will say, "Mind your business." And they're right, until the second that business calls me asking if I can spot them for the electric bill, just this once, and we're back here. People will say, "Children are not a luxury reserved for the rich." Also true. People will say, "Love finds a way." Love does find a way to make suffering tolerable. That's the part no one puts on Etsy. I want to end this with something neat, some moral that makes me look wiser than I am. All I have is the image of those 2 stupid little plastic figurines he printed at 2 in the morning because the hum of the machine made him feel less alone, because making something you can hold is the closest he can get to control. One's a knight, one's a wizard. He gave me the angry wizard because he thought I'd like it, and he wasn't wrong. The wizard sits on our bookshelf now, middle of a row of novels I haven't read, watching me with his dumb, carved frown. Some days I want to flick him into the trash. Most days I don't. Most days I straighten him when the dog's tail knocks him over. Maybe that's the answer and I just don't like it. You don't have to like the people you love. You just keep straightening their tiny, tipping lives, even while you yell at them to stop building towers out of wind. Am I the asshole? Probably. Or maybe I'm just the only one in the room saying out loud what everyone else whispers into their coffee. A baby won't fix a budget, a marriage certificate isn't a golden ticket, and love is not a ledger. If they go ahead anyway, I'll show up with diapers and an extra smoke detector battery and the angry wizard in my pocket to remind me to keep my mouth from turning into a blade. And if they don't, if they wait, if they change their minds, I will throw a party with a cake that isn't cupcakes, and I'll let myself hope without doing math for one whole night. Then I'll wake up and check my phone, because that's who I am now. I'm the person who calculates, who says no, who loves them enough to be hated. I can live with that. I don't know if I can live with pretending this is fine.